Let's face it, the 80s were a weird time. Weird hairstyles, weird music, weird fashion, and even weird TV shows.
She's fantastic.
Here's 10 weird shows of the 1980s. Number 10, and the least popular weird show of the 80s, is Rubiks, the Amazing Cube. The cartoon debuted on September 10th, 1983 as part of the ABC Saturday morning cartoons. The program featured a magic Rubiks Cube named Rubik, who could fly through the air and had other special powers. Rubik could only come alive when the colored squares on his sides had been matched up. The voice of Rubik, Ron Palillo, told TV Guide in 1983 that for the role he spoke very slowly, and then technicians sped up the tapes and raised the pitch.
That easy. Rubik takes everyone.
Palillo said Rubik's giggle was very different from the trademark laugh of Horshack, his character on the TV series Welcome Back, Kotter. She's the Sheriff debuted on September 19, 1987. It was Suzanne Summers' return to TV after Three's Company. In 2002, it was ranked number 44 on TV Guide's list of the 50 worst TV shows of all time. What made this series weird was the storyline. After the death of her husband, the local sheriff, she's sworn in as the new sheriff. She knew nothing about police work and got the job simply based on association. It somehow managed to eke out 2 seasons, but failed miserably. The Powers of Matthew Starr was about a teenage alien prince from the planet Quadris, who escaped with his guardian Walt from an evil force that took over his planet. Matthew is also equipped with superpowers. It's almost like the creators took everything popular and put it into one character. Let's see, teenage drama? Check. Alien? Check. Prince? Check. Superpowers? Check. His guardian Walt somehow managed to get a job as a high school teacher, and Matthew became a high school student. The series only made it 1 season on NBC from September 17, 1982 to April 8, 1983. This series was ranked number 22 of the worst TV shows of all time. In a bid to try and save this bizarre show, midway through the season, the story took a dramatic turn. Matthew went from high school teen dealing with teenage problems to a government agent running from assassins. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to save the show. Jennifer Slept Here was about nerdy 14-year-old Joey, who moves with his parents and little sister into a house previously owned by Jennifer Farrell, a deceased movie star / sex symbol. Jennifer's ghost still haunts the place, visible only to Joey. It began to look like every nerdy 14-year-old's dream come true. But this wasn't a love story. The show debuted on NBC on October 21st, 1983, and ran for 13 episodes. Each episode had Jennifer giving some sort of life advice to Joey, with a little bit of ghost slapstick mixed in. Manimal was a bit ahead of its time. The series debuted on September 30th, 1983 on NBC. The show centered on the character Dr. Jonathan Chase, a shape-shifting man who could turn himself into any animal he chose. He used this ability to help the police solve crimes. The transformation took way too long in my opinion. On one episode, I clocked it at almost 2 full minutes to change. The show only lasted for 8 episodes before it got the axe. Automan was a science fiction superhero television series. It aired for 12 episodes, although 13 were made on ABC between 1983 and 1984. It was basically a ripoff of the Walt Disney picture live-action film Tron. Automan follows the adventures of a police officer and computer programmer named Walter, who has created an artificially intelligent crime-fighting program that generated a hologram able to leave the computer world at night and fight crime. This show was extremely 80s and completely weird. Bosom Buddies was a sitcom that starred Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari. It ran from 1980 to 1982 on ABC. It followed the misadventures of two single men working in creative advertising, struggling in their industry while disguising themselves as women, in order to live in the one apartment they could afford. The show was originally pitched by Miller Boyett as a straightforward buddy sitcom. They described it as a sophisticated Billy Wilder. And when ABC executives asked Miller and Boyett to explain what they meant by the comparison to Wilder, the producers mentioned Some Like It Hot. ABC bought the show on the condition that it would include men and women's clothing, just like the movie. Miller recalled, "We weren't there to pitch that, and they jumped on it. We drove back to the studio in the car saying, 'Oh my God, what are we gonna do? We have to do something in drag.'" This was one of Tom Hanks' first starring roles, and the show was actually pretty funny.
Hello, everyone. I'm Slim Goodbody, and I am here to guide you today. I will provide you with lots of information.
Slim Goodbody's inside story was one part educational, one part musical, and 2 parts weird. Mr. Goodbody wore a full bodysuit that looked like a body without skin. Originally appearing on Captain Kangaroo in the late 70s, in 1980 he received his own show on PBS. The show became the second highest rated show on the network. Each episode featured a different part of the body explained with some sort of song and dance. Even though the show was weird and cheesy, it was hugely popular. Mr. Goodbody still performs this character to this day in schools and special appearances. He also has a large following on YouTube. Humanoids is one of the strangest cartoons of all time. People die as they drown in acid. There's even one villain who looks like a giant vulture-headed skeleton named Decompose, who traps victims inside his ribcage where they slowly decompose till they die. Perhaps it isn't hard to see why the show caught flack from parents, scared kids, and only lasted 13 episodes in 1986. The plot of the show follows the team of scientists known as Earth Corps as they battle 3 enormous Inhumanoids that were released from beneath the Earth's surface. The Earth Corps had highly advanced suits with different powers per team member that allowed them to defeat the beasts. Aside from the crazy setup, the artwork was fairly good for a cartoon from the 80s. Also, the writing was decent as well. That's likely because of the short run of the series kept the showrunners from stretching the premise until it was paper thin. The most popular weird show from the 80s was Small Wonder. It was one of the weirdest shows to come out in the 80s. The show debuted on September 7th, 1985 and ran for 4 seasons. The show was hugely popular in the US and internationally. The show was syndicated in France, Italy, Germany, and the UK. The show chronicles the family of a robotics engineer who secretly creates a robot modeled after a human girl, then tries to pass it off as their adopted daughter Vicky. The Lawson family tries to keep the robot's existence a secret, but their disagreeable neighbors, the Brindles, keep on popping up at the most unexpected moments, especially nosy next-door neighbor Harriet. The show's humor frequently derived from Vicky's attempts to learn human behavior, the robot's literal interpretation of speech, and the family's efforts to disguise the robot's true nature. In an effort to explain Vicky's aging, Ted gave Vicky an upgrade in the series' third season. He aged her face, dressed her in modern clothes, and allowed her to eat and drink. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this awesome 80s list. Take a minute and check out some of our other videos. We have a variety of different shows to choose from.